and Sally were just people that Mike had a profound effect on track motorcycle riding in the United States. Maybe, I mean, I don't know. I did some quick math, and Mike had personal interaction with 20,000 riders.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm probably being conservative there. 20,000 riders. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I've did a lot of riders meetings, but that's not personal interaction. I mean, Mike stood in front of people, teaching them how to be, safer, more proficient, and ultimately have more fun on their motorcycle. What an incredible feat.
Absolutely.
I look at that, wow. 20,000 people. I mean, that. What is that? That's like a concert hall, a good size, concert.
That's straight now.
Never broke his cool, and he never got mad. He just straight as a line. Done. Take care of it. Done.
Yep.
Never any drama.
Mike was just Mike everywhere he went. I know that, Richard and I raised our baby here, quite like everybody has, like a lot of people have, but we truly raised Ryan here. And when she graduated high school, you guys came out to the house.
Yeah.
Just Mike is just Mike. We had a whole tent in the front yard. It was beautiful. And you guys pulled up on your Harley, right? And he walks into the crowd. We got like 50, 60 people there or something.
It was fantastic.
The table and the cake, high school graduation, normal stuff, picture board, whatever.
Good.
And he sits down and he pulls off his motorcycle boots and he puts on his sandals and he puts those boots and his socks right underneath the cake table.
Julie and I were rolling. We were like, that's Mike. Mike is Mike. Didn't move him, didn't say a word.
That's
just loved
just where
every
he
minute of
needed
it.
his boots
Everybody
to be.
got their piece of cake over Mike's boots. That's a true story.
That is a true story.
Being said, we're going on 20 years now. That's a long time. He was here for every single year and barely missed an event, if that I can remember. Him and Sally together were the pinnacle of STT as it started and as it grew, giving their weekends tirelessly for all of us. And it's my honor to stand here and recognize that. It's truly humbling. It's been an incredible 20 years for Sport Bike Track Time here at Groton with Mike and Sally. Yeah, absolutely.
Mike was, obviously he was an event director and basically, ran the Great Lakes, division of Sport Bike Track Time. And we had a few really, really, really awesome calls when we were not at events. One of my favorites was, and he would always call Bonnie, Bon.
Mm-hmm.
He'd call, so we're driving down the road, get a phone call. Hey, Bon, it's Mike. It's Massara. She goes, well, hi, Mike. He goes, hey, I've got a question for you. Did you say it was okay for a guy to use oxygen bottle in the intermediate group? Bonnie's like, what? Yeah, he's got it strapped onto his bike and the hose is running into his helmet. And Bonnie's like, no, Mike, I absolutely did not give that permission. She goes, well, he does fine in the novice group without oxygen, but if he's going to click it up to the intermediate group, he needs the O2. So I just kind of wanted to, see, what your thoughts were on that. And she's like, is it okay to strap a rocket onto, and he would never get excited. He would just call and he'd say, okay. And then he told the guy, I mean, just stuff like that. We would just laugh. I'm like, really, really? Did we just get this phone call? But he's like, hey, let me call the owners and let's see what they say. I mean, it was great. And I've got, there's a bunch of stories.
We've done a lot of different days here for this opener. Beautiful days, warm days, sunny days, rainy days. Through all of it, they never missed one. I remember one time Mike and I were down here at Pit Out chiseling ice off of the track entry because a little stream went through there and we had to get it off. It was, and it seems like just yesterday that happened. So again, what a long time that was ago, but it seems like yesterday. This family is amazing, and Mike was truly the godfather of it. So for that, we're going to have a celebration of life this afternoon after the track meeting and all day long. We've got a plaque here that we're going to put on the tech shed where they spent all of their weekends for the last 20 years. Again, we're so very grateful for what they did and very honored. For those of you who don't know, we're also going to do a reverse parade lap at lunch. We're going to line up as we normally would down here at, what was it, Owen? 12:45?
12:45.
And we're going to go out at about 12:50. We're going to do one reverse lap around by, and then come around again and come in. For anybody who's here, you're more than welcome, and we would appreciate it if you would participate in that.
Mike never had anything bad to say about anyone, no matter how much shit the rest of us talked about people or customers or other staff members or anything else. That guy,
Yeah, he
never.
All right, I gotta send that. We're sending it to Ryan.
Which Ryan?
3 years after Mike.
Yeah.
Mike, Todd Thomas, Justin, Bowen, those are fixtures.
Yeah. It's funny, Justin doesn't look that old.
Yeah, I know. He's unlike me. Yeah. But, Mike, one of the times this was the kind of logic that Mike used. So we were at Grattan, and one of the Buell rider, brag riders, had this weird coming out of the bowl. The bike got sideways, kind of high-sided, then did this weird cartwheel, hit the guardrail, went up into a tree, and broke in half. The only thing holding the front forks on the motorcycle was the brake cable and the throttle cable. So Sam has to go get a front end loader, and here's Sam. You think he'd be like upset that the bike was in a tree. He's like, well, haven't seen that in a while. I mean, that's all. Brings it back. So this rider, after the day was over, I think this was like the second of the last session, he said, hey, Monty, you've got a bunch of Aprilias over there. Can I borrow one for tomorrow? And I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. You just broke a motorcycle in half and put it into a tree, And Massara's standing right there, and he goes, hey, Monty, he goes, listen. He goes, what are the chances of Viola putting another motorcycle into that tree and breaking it in half tomorrow? I'm like, probably zero. He goes, so let him borrow the bike. Works for me. And I did, and of course, nothing happened, but that's Mike, he's like, instead of seeing potential disaster, he's like, hey, what could possibly go wrong? So he was always, he was very optimistic when it came to stuff like that, so.
I just wanted to say, I did not have the privilege of knowing Mike, but I have gotten to know him through several people over the past few months. And I love it. It reminds me of a time where a good friend of mine who was great with people, he did a memorial service for someone, and he sat around the family and he asked them, hey, tell me some great things about this guy. And not one person could say one good thing about that man. He was around 80 years old, and that's how his life ended, with no one able to say one good thing about him.
I showed up. I moved into a flat above Dennis Baker, and he's like, hey, I got this group. We ride Buells. I was like, cool. So we went to Shields. I met Mike and Jeff and Cozy and the core group. And then like a month later, he's like, hey, we're going to do this thing. It's like a track day. You can come out and ride with us and whatever. And I rode out there at the time. Mike had it was a Ford Econoline van. It was like a church van.
Yeah.
That he pulled the very same trailer that you saw the last time he was at the track. And Gadget took the rest of our bikes, and we called that the Southfield Short Bus. And we traveled all over the upper Midwest, Mike and Sally and me and Baker in a Southfield Short Bus, having just the time of our lives. It was fun.
Yeah, sounds great.
That was early on.
The dildo stuff?
Yeah.
What?
I know that it was in drawer 3 of the toolbox. That's about all I know.
That's all I've ever
Everything's
heard.
in drawer
That's all I've ever heard.
Well, everything was in drawer 3. Yeah.
Anybody asked for a tool, it was in drawer 3 where the dildo was.
It's still there too.
Yeah, so I don't even know. I used to do track days when it was Sylvania track time, and Monty ran all that. So I have a T-shirt and a membership card that it says Sylvania track time, which is pretty humorous because every night I'll pull it out and take a picture. Or somebody's like, "Oh my God, you got one of the shirts!"
Right.
So Sylvania Sport Bike went out of business, and Monty kept the track time.
It's still there too.
That's the fucking
The guy that came over to change the doorknob fell off going to the garage. So I called the guy. He came over. He says, "Where's your tool set?"
Drawer 3.
In the garage. So he opens up. He's looking for the tool. He opens. Says, "What the f- is this?"
Don't touch that.
That's a special tool.
I'm like, that goes, "What the shit?" He was so appalled because it's all greasy too. It had fingerprints on it.
Oh, is it a dealership?
Yeah. It was a
Okay,
dealership
so it
there.
started out as like a dealership track rental thing.
Yeah, Sylvania, Ohio, and they started doing track days for customers.
Okay, that's cool.
Customer appreciation thing. You bought a Ducati, you came out, you did a track day with them and whatnot, and then Patrick closed up the business, and Monty took off with then changing the name to Sport Bike Track Time. So it's always been STT. It's just different name.
Hey, I mean, it was a lifetime here of, for me it was 98. I think I started coming to the track.
Yeah, I think Richard said over 20 years.
Yeah,
This
I don't know
morning.
when Mike got involved because it was Monty. And then,
No, so
Mike, I think
do you
was
know
when
Mike?
Huh?
Do you know Mike well?
I've known him since like 7-8 years.
Mike just came here with a group of people that would rent the track on Buell.
I think the Buell Club. Yeah.
The Buell Club, and they came in. What was that guy's name that transported all of the stuff over here for you guys? It was Frank. Frank is Gia's dad, and I know Gia really well. They would come here, and they would just hit out of a semi-truck and ride. Well, of course, Mike's a great person and loved to instruct.
Sure.
That's how he got involved. He was the best teacher ever.
And I think Monty told me maybe he had some sort of mailing list, and that's kind of what helped start it. Is that right? Is that?
I don't know about that.
I'm not sure.
I don't know anything about a mailing list.
I know STT started with some kind of mailing list because there's a bunch of people that wanted to ride. And
Well,
a track-
STT used to be Sylvania Superbike.
That's what I knew. Yeah.
Okay.
I used to rent.
Was it
Sylvania.
Was it Sylvania Sport Bike or
Sylvania Superbike,
Superbike?
and it was Sylvania Track Time.
Sylvania Track Time. Is
In
right.
fact, there's a picture of Patrick inside. Have you not seen the picture of Patrick?
I haven't. So, but that's how it started with Monty getting involved, and then they started coming to do track days.
It's not for you.
And then he ended up becoming so addicted to teaching and instructing and helping people become better riders.
It is terrible. Is that what that is?
So he got
This is
asked
just
to be
a
a
pass around
director.
thing?
No, that's
and then
allowing
2 decades of that.
part of
2 decades of that.
Huh.
I'm taking communion.
One of the nicest guys I've met in the organization.
Almost 2 decades.
on the table.
Yeah.
18 years. I'll bet it is.
Yeah. I know he'd been doing it a long time when I met
I was
him.
glad you.
And I'd never been up to Groton before. I never rode here
And
before.
this, I can't believe he drinks this. He never drank this.
Oh,
this is horrible.
Is this the brandy and wine on ice?
Because you won't.
No, no. Because Sally won't. How many of my stands do you have? It's got nothing to do with me. It's because Sally won't drink it.
So something.
It won't get drank while he's sitting there
He
minding
drank
his own
vodka until I started.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yep. Awesomeness.
Well, this is the exact opposite of Mike. All I have heard over and over and over again is the incredible impact that he has made on people's lives. And I can't imagine what kind of impact that he has had on riders' lives over this past 20 plus years that he has worked at the track. So what an honor for you guys and for all of you that have been impacted by him. What an amazing life. What an amazing thing that he can be remembered that way.
Hey, do you have a special wrench or do you have a tire gauge? You might think, oh yeah, sure, it's in the top drawer. Just go over there, help yourself. And they're like, oh shit. And we're all just sitting there laughing because some people would either say something or some people would just have a weird look and you get what they need and they would leave and not say no, like they were embarrassed.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, because I didn't think about that, but totally.
This guy's keeping his sex toys in here. I guess I better just keep moving.
It was vibrating. 9 times out of 10, it's an electric razor, but every once in a while, it's a dildo.
It's just another tool for another job.
Right.
So fuzzy thing's out.
Maybe it's out.
It's out.
What's happening here?
Yes.
I just want to go have a drink.
Yes.
Why are you guys doing this?
Yes. It was.
Of course, it's company policy never to imply ownership in the event of a dildo. We have to use the indefinite article, a dildo, never your dildo.
But I don't own.
Oh, man. There was literally 2 days where I think I got 500 emails, 250 from Mike and 250 from the staff.
And here's Michael. Let me call Jeff. Jeff, what's happening?
Bear with me, Harris. I almost got it. Bear with me, Harris. I almost got it. Bear with me, Harris. I almost got it. I was like, okay, Mike.
No, let me try it one more time.
Okay, Mike. Okay, Mike. I finally just was like,
everybody only got 4 then.
Yeah, right.
That's good enough.
He was so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey Dan, how bad was turn 1 last year?
And obviously me and him.
Well, the lightning strike the year before, the patches, the crater that
We all just
created,
fuck with
the
each other,
ripples,
yeah.
the bumps,
Me and Brock were
not anymore. There was no more clear path. Like top of three 3 years ago? 3 or 4 years ago, the top of 3 right on your preferred line, about a foot and a half out. There developed a divot over the course of the day. It wasn't there in the morning. And
it's kind of funny. The way that this all started off was I got into motorcycles when I was really young and started the whole track day thing later on as I went to, it was called Ducati Owners Club of Canada. That's how I kind of,
Did you live in Canada?
No, they used to do an event at Grattan.
Okay,
and,
all right.
It was over 4th of July weekend. And then, so I did that. And then a friend of mine, Terry Collins, who worked at Johnson Controls, and he invited me to a private track day at Grattan, and there was like 7 or 8 of us. And it was really super fun. And I mean, it was just, Sam.
Was it sponsored by a company or is it just a group of dudes?
No, just threw cash in the hat and paid for it.
Okay.
So it was like $200 each, or $175 each, something like that.
Not bad. I mean, something. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you consider like we were done by 3 o'clock. It's like Sam's like, you guys got the track till 5. We're like, send the ambulance home, man, because like we're done. I mean, we're not going back out there. And there was no organization except it was just basically like Fight Club. I mean, if you invited somebody, you were responsible for them. If they did something stupid, it was kind of on them. And that was how the basically at that time, Great Lakes Road Racing Association. I don't know if you remember that or if you've ever heard of it.
I got into track riding in 07.
Okay, so they were gone, but that was the only way to get on a racetrack was go racing with like Weira, or Great Lakes Road Racing Association, Eric Nackey at Grattan. There just were very few channels to get on a racetrack regularly.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Who did that California Superbike school?
That was Keith Code.
Yeah, that was one of the few things I think was around that maybe
But once a year, he'd come through like on Reg Pridmore. You know, Pridmore's school would come through like once a year. So maybe you could do Pridmore at Mid-Ohio and Keith Code at Grattan, you know, or something like that. And otherwise, you know, if you didn't race, you just weren't getting on the racetrack.
I mean, it turned into a long time. I think it snuck up on people.
Yeah, it really did. And then out of nowhere, like Mike becomes the face of the company. He was as present and sometimes even more present than Monty at these events because Monty was traveling. He had to bounce between the northern and southern divisions. At one point, we had a western division that didn't last very long, and then we had an eastern division. So he's trying to manage all these things. Well, Mike became the face of the Midwest, and in fact, when the southern division started, before Trevor was a guy named Mark Sheldon. That his brother Jim Sheldon, was it Trackaholics? I think was the name of the group that they ran. Mike Sheldon went down south, and we all traveled down to Jennings to train all those guys in like what we do.
Right.
Like Mike taught Mark Sheldon how to do a riders meeting.
Sure.
And then we just had a ton of fun down there too. But I mean, it's I don't know how to put it into words because it became like family. It was like as much of a track dad as Mike was, he was also like a brother to everybody there.
Yeah, for sure.
It was just a cool environment that I don't know how to put.
I never saw Mike mad.
You know what? I didn't either.
Never saw that
Unless
man
some
mad.
guy hit on me too many times and I said no twice. That little fucker. Seriously, he would walk up to a 6'2" guy and do this. She said no twice. And the guy would go, "Oh, I'm just trying to talk to you. Let's take it outside." "Okay, man, okay." And the guy would walk away. That's serious.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I never saw that look that he gets that scares a 6'2" guy. I'm glad I never saw that.
We were in the trenches a couple of good times at these events, but he never broke his cool and he never got mad. He just straight as a line. Done. Take care of it. Done.
Yep.
And Mike would put her to bed.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, good times. Another thing that was a Mike thing was the styrofoam McDonald's cups. If you'd ever seen, he always had the McDonald's cup. I never got the cup, but one day McDonald's ran out of the plastic ones, and I got a styrofoam cup, and I got a large Diet Coke, and the thing held ice all day. So I was like, this has got to be it. This has got to be the Mikeism. Why he wants the styrofoam cup, because anytime he goes to McDonald's, he'd ask for the styrofoam cup. So
that's funny.
Well, how do we just dive into this?
I don't know. What do we?
I got it. Just follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Max and I have been going to the track together since he was, geez, man,
2 weeks old.
Probably 2 weeks old. You know, and there was a lot of times where it was just you and I, and
Yeah.
Grattan's our home track.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike and Sally always ran the Grattan events.
They were there every time. I don't remember a weekend without them.
Never a weekend without them, you know. And when you see somebody year after year, right, at events that are really important to you, you get really close and you form relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of people did that with Mike, and we're on that list.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that he passed away. You know, it's
really
sad. Feel real bad for Sally.
Yeah.
You know, that's tough when you lose somebody that you spend all your time with.
Yeah, it sure is.
They do everything together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to say that. It just sounds like so negative. Let's start over. Let's just talk about happy shit.
Yeah.
Mike was my best friend. Probably about 17 years. So
That's a long time. How'd you meet him?
Fuel.
You were one of the original Buell guys.
Yeah. Try and get it back together. Yeah.
I guess you probably knew before the rest of us.
Most of us, Justin Chmielowski was there, Dennis Baker,
yeah,
a few others. We had as coaches Cozy. We all started together as a Buell group. That turned into Buells on the track. And then eventually we outgrew the Buells, and the rest is history.
What kind of Buells did you have?
We all started out with tube framers because that's what we were dealing with the late 90s, early 2000s. Track pigs.
Those are cool bikes.
It was fun. Unfortunately, still had mine when they brought us all together. That's what I took out.
You still have it?
That's
was that silver one? That's cool. That's very cool.
Those guys picked up the XP9s, and the rest of us did. Mike loved that bike. I did buy Dennis's old XP9 after Dennis got rid of that.
Yeah.
Like I said, a few of them started out, the Buell Bragg group started out in the late 90s. I joined it probably 2001.
That's fantastic. We should have gone. Bear run. Oh, yeah, that's right. Babe will need a beer. Oh, the picture. All right. Sorry.
What did you guys call this?
Right now you hit it, and it unsettles your bike as you're tipping over the crest. So you tip right 6 inches or left 6 inches, and you clear it. And I always choose to go right. But turn one, you'd try a different line, and it'd be worse. You'd try another line, and it'd be about the same. And it was just crap. But the smoothness of turn one today.
But 3 looks good. I was just walking 3. 3 looks good.
Yeah.
3 is not that bad.
It's not bad.
4 too?
No.
No, you didn't see one.
Oh, they redid 4, but it was like 4 years ago.
Yeah,
and they
so,
put
yeah.
that big ass, tall ass curve inside of 4. And there used to be a small concrete patch and then some sand, and I like to put my knee there.
Amanda.
The first time.
I'll come in here and fuck with you because I'm a degenerate just like the rest of you motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And so somebody's got to come to the party.
First time I came through, I about took my knee off because I was like, oh shit! And I pulled it back up.
That's a fucking drink right there,
I actually dipped. I actually kicked a little dirt onto the track and won.
Really?
Accidentally. Because it was so smooth. It was so smooth, and I was actually.
It's amazing.
Going a touch slower because I was
Oh.
evaluating a guy in I-4A.
Yes.
And I went past him and went through there. I'm like, oh, I just about took my leg off. That was fun.
The thing that I think is sort of incredible is that before that, there really wasn't track days as we know it.
They're really Monty sort of. I mean, you could do race practice on Friday.
There was like Pridmore, and there was that one dude, the California Superbike School guy.
Yeah, Keith Code.
Yeah.
And then like Todd Thomas got into it. He just showed up at a race practice on a Friday and started racing. And that was track days before track days were a thing. And then Monty took that and made it a whole weekend for people that didn't really want to race, give them more track time. And then the idea of this novice group sort of came out. We showed up as Bragg, but then of course Mike always working a deal, right? He always had an angle, and he came in and he started talking to Monty as Monty's, I guess, head instructor at the time with this guy named Patrick. There was not really anything written. There was like a 1-page outline for years Massara used to do the school group, and we used to make fun of him in the back row, and then it expanded to Dennis and Cozy and all. It was funny. All these Bragg members all got Japanese sport bikes, and then here we are today. But we used to joke about Mike and his little isms. He had this whole engineering explanation of why you need to be on the gas and the chain pull effect and how you align the axes of the front and rear wheel and the crankshaft by yanking on the chain. And it was so funny. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Mike? Why don't you just tell them to stay on the gas and that's all they need to know? And why don't you just shut the fuck up?
It's in October there. I looked at Mike, and we joked a lot with each other. I kind of put my hands in front of his pants saying, dude, how are you losing that kind of weight? Because I can't do that. Oh, I'm just not eating all that crap, not knowing that if I would have taken a step back, I might have looked at him a little deeper and say, maybe something's wrong. But that's hindsight being 2020, and that's not fair. But, yeah, it's a huge bummer he left us. I was mad at first. There's no doubt. But my good friend Justin calmed me down in about 3-4 hours, and you know what? I celebrated the guy's life. I still do, because he deserved that. He gave us his life, and we're going to continue that with whatever we can do, whether we're drinking his drink, watching his bikes around the track, things like that. So
yeah, and continuing to run events the way he would as well. Deal. You've got one guy that's concentrating on the wrenches, and one guy that's concentrating on riding the bike. And the guy that's concentrating on riding the bike is young.
Are you cold?
Just a little bit.
I'll give you this.
It looks like it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I need to get off.
You
can get really close. And
That's right.
We had this conversation.
I got some good
It's,
tips.
I was at their shit collected. That's why
I got
asked
some good
you guys. I don't know.
I got
I don't know what else to do.
Drive
You wanna
fast.
see my
Take
work?
chances.
We got a pretty rowdy art.
Farm animals. Petting zoo, I should say. Pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty neat place.
Cool.
You're still shorter. 100%. Is it good? Are we good?
Who's taller?
Definitely your dad. Without question.
Him? By barely anything, though?
No, by a lot.
Like an inch and a half.
Fucking A. That's a big number.
You have a hat on,
That
too.
doesn't add anything.
I get tricked. I'd ask Michael as a brand new staff member. Let's call myself a staff member. And then even as years go on, I got nailed with it again last year. I just forgot. Next thing you know, there's a big dirty, greasy dildo in the drawer. Next, again, the 12-millimeter wrench that I wish I didn't need to borrow. But it makes me laugh because the dildo Dan story was so epic within the companies. It resonated with all of us.
Same dildo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Double
of course it
had a
is.
Big one.
Double-handed.
And it was just going like this at the end.
This was really, really good to see that thing flopping around on the back of that motorcycle at Gingerman Raceway to the biggest dick in the history of motorcycling, Dildo Dan. Yes.
That was Gingerman.
Okay.
And he thought he was so fast because everybody's pointing.
Yeah, everyone's cheering for him.
Yeah.
And he was like,
yeah. He was like, yeah.
And he pulls up and he stops and hop it. And everybody's like coming over and taking pictures. He's thinking he's so hot.
He thought he broke track record.
And people are taking pictures of him.
Instead, he had a big dildo on his.
Superbike, I'd been harping on Patrick. I'm like, hey man, we need to do these track days. And so finally we did, and they were really successful. I mean, they were full.
So, I don't mean to interrupt you, but the Johnson Controls guy and all that stuff was before you had Sylvania Superbike?
Before Sylvania track days, right.
But then but there's a period where you had a dealership, or you were a partner in a dealership.
Or I was not a financial partner. Most people thought I was, just because I had a real close relationship with Patrick, the owner. But
so you worked for Patrick?
I did not. No, I was just I met Patrick when he first opened the shop and became good friends with him and his wife, and Richard, who worked at the shop, and Steve, that worked at the shop. And it just became one of those kind of really beneficial mutual relationships.
Gotcha. So he had the dealership, and you had the interest in track days, and you sort of put them together.
Well, and let's see, I bought a Ducati 996 from him, an Aprilia RS250, an Aprilia Miele, Triumph Trophy 1200. I spent a little bit of money in there.
Yeah, you were a good customer.
Treated me very well. So yeah, it was really awesome. And so I wanted to do the track day thing, and finally he's like, yeah, let's do that. And so we went up, talked to Sam at Grattan, and I think we had them. They were all on Mondays. Didn't have any weekend stuff, and they were awesome. We would sell out, started, kind of loosely breaking it up into 3 groups, but didn't really have a structure per se. Just like, hey, you're like the C rider, you're a B rider, you've got a race license, and, so it was kind of self-sorting. So, and it still worked fairly well. It was fun.
And so Grattan was the first track that this stuff all happened at then, at least for you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Huh. And what a great place. I mean, and this, and you've heard this from tons and tons of people, but you can go fast at Grattan, you can go fast anywhere.
Absolutely.
I mean, what a great track to learn on. I mean, it just doesn't get much better.
Absolutely. Well,
7 Hot Mess Express. Woo! Second edition. Something, and I've been trying to formulate it without it coming off wrong.
I started recording you.
Okay.
I figured I should tell you that.
One of the things that I love about Mike was like somehow he had this way of like, I don't know, like somehow he could make sexual harassment funny and okay. Like,
yeah. Yeah, it was
ridiculously inappropriate jokes, and yet somehow it was also a compliment. And then Sally was like right there to back him up. Like she always had something to chime in.
Maybe Sally was part of it because it's like his pretty much wife was like sitting right there.
Oh yeah.
Validating it, I guess. I don't know. There's something that was more benign from him than because some guys would say the same thing and they wouldn't get away with it.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. Like his joke about eating pumpkin pie, so inappropriate, but from him, it was absolutely fine somehow.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because Sarah Guthrie passing recently made me think of that also because he made inappropriate jokes with her constantly, and it was fine. It was funny, like.
Yeah, there's no threat, and he's not being weird or
he's not gonna like try to show up in your trailer later or something like he's but it was also just constant like it was there was never like a day where he wasn't doing that. It was just
and Sally was his wingman. I mean, she was right there saying some raunchy shit too, which I absolutely love about her.
Totally yeah. It's That's an interesting point. I hadn't even thought about that, even though several people have told the dildo and the toolbox drawer story.
Yeah. And trying to write something like that, like when it comes out in text, it could definitely read wrong, when there's no emphasis or, a change in tone. When somebody reads, somehow it was okay that he, sexually harassed me in a funny way. Like, I wasn't sure how to write something like that because that's not exactly what I meant, but anybody who knows him knows that it's like, it's harmless.
It's all based on who he is and knowing him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the weird.
It was never anything he ever hid from Sally. His inappropriateness was right there out in the open, and she was always there to join in the inappropriateness.
For sure. Yeah.
Richard was one of our very first customers I think I saw him for the first time at Grattan, and he was riding TZ 250s, and he had just blown a motor, which happened. And, he's like, I'm like, what happened? He goes, I got to put the new motor in it. And I'm like, really? He says, I won't even miss a session. I'm like, there is no way that you can put a motor in that motorcycle in like 32 minutes. And I watched. And Richard is a hell of a mechanic.
I believe that.
He is really, really good. And he was early. He was like out to the grid like 3 minutes early. And that's when I'm like, wow, this guy's special. And then they used to bring a big, it was like a box trailer, but it had a residential air conditioning unit in it.
Okay.
And I just used to laugh at that, and he's like, man, they're way cheaper than the RV ones, I mean, plus they work better.
Yeah, sure.
So it was a red trailer with a big big residential air conditioner in it.
He's not wrong.
Yeah, and him and Jeff Maloney and Jeff was a big
shit too.
What do you want me to say?
I don't know. You've been here as long as anybody. Say some shit.
Well, I met Massara about 7 or 8 years ago. You were in the hospital.
Ouch! Way to fire it up.
No, it was weird.
I feel like I'm still there all of a sudden.
It was weird because I didn't know any of you. I didn't know any of you, and I ended up in a real weird situation with that one photographer, and I'm not trying to get into the drama about him, but I had to figure it out that one day, and Massara he made it right. He made it cool.
I don't know nothing. I was in the hospital.
No, you were in the hospital. I didn't know Trevor, but I ended up having some conversations with him, but me and Massara joked about it for years after that, and hanging at the Candlestone, and he was cool and he was reasonable about it. But that's how I ended up here. Chrissy Midlam booked me for a day that I wasn't supposed to be booked for, and then Massara was cool. And then I don't think you knew what was going on for like a year.
I could tell he and Bonnie were broken. Bonnie especially was broken up.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
It's golden hour.
Because I
Yeah.
It's real pretty right now.
Facebook Johansson.
This is when Brian Van will look prettiest, is during golden hour.
Oh, it's the lighting, yes.
Yeah, it's all about the lighting.
Oh,
I do like the beard. The beard looks good. You're starting to get
fucking old, dude.
Is it? It's really nice.
I feel like a rock star.
You actually seem like modern Ozzy Osbourne or something.
Nice.
Yeah.
See you later.
That is so good.
No. Throw into the salt and pepper thing here.
Fucking old.
Getting into the club.
Yeah. How old are you?
52.
Yeah, you got 2 years on me.
Oh, I thought you meant 20 years body.
Three? I'll be
I thought you were
51
about
this
to
year.
Never know what he
so bad.
Never do.
It's just a number, dude. All you
Yeah, I
do
don't
is
even
put
know
one
if
foot in front of the other and just keep fucking moving.
I'm just getting juice.
Yeah.
maybe like when people were writing.
Yeah, that shouldn't have been.
Yeah, I saw it up there. I'm like, oh, that's Joe.
No,
I just assumed
no.
that is really furry.
Yeah, it is. It's supposed to stop wind noise, which so right now, that's a good
It's
time to be
helping.
using it.
Yeah. It's definitely like one.
I never
Keep-
run out.
The Big Lebowski. I love that movie.
Sad clown.
Somebody farting there or something? All of a sudden everybody
Shut the fuck up, Donnie. You're out of your element.
Max and I have been going to the racetrack since he was 2 weeks old.
2 weeks old.
The majority of those trips were where?
Yeah, to Grattan Raceway.
Where's the first place you did a track day?
Grattan Raceway.
Who was running the event?
That's Mike and Sally at STT.
That is Mike and Sally at STT. I know we were both pretty sad when we heard the news.
Yeah.
You know, when Mike passed, and nobody even really knew he was sick. You know, I think he kind of kept that under wraps. You know, a pretty proud guy for sure.
Yeah.
Still, it's tough. You know, it's tough when you lose somebody that you care about and that's been a big part of your life. And I know we were proud as a family to go and be part of the memorial that we had.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely was.
We would have skipped a Moto America race for that.
Yeah, no matter what. Yep.
Yeah, 100%. You know, to be there for Sally and support her in that, you know, and give her an idea of how loved she is in the community. And there is a tremendous amount of love for Mike and Sally, no question. And we're on the list of people that love them. You know, we want the best for her. We hope she keeps coming out because she'll be missed if she doesn't.
I hope to see her, every weekend that we're there. So
Blueberry muffins.
Yeah.
Remember that when she used to bring you those from the Candlestone all the time?
Yeah. Muffin Max is what I was called.
Muffin Max.
I still get called that.
Yeah, you do. And that was long before you were ever able to ride anything at the racetrack. Your first track day, remember that? I think it was you, and I think Morgan rode too.
Yeah, she did.
Right? Dave's daughter, Morgan Bavel, she rode. And remember, you guys got a little extra riders meeting from Mike.
Yeah.
Can you remember what Mike told you? Because it was actually pretty good advice.
I do not, honestly.
Come on.
It was so long ago. It was 3-4 years ago. 4 years ago, yeah.
And you're only 15 years old. I mean, are you fading already? Dementia's setting in?
Yeah, I think so.
Come on, man. He made sure that you guys were focused and on point, and you were taking it serious, and that's just kind of the way Mike was, Mike.
I remember a little bit of a pep talk, but I don't remember what he said exactly. Yeah, but
That's
I do remember.
fair.
Yeah,
a little bit of a pep talk and making sure you guys were on point, and that you understood it wasn't a game and that it was real consequences. Any actions you take on the racetrack would have real consequences. I know Dave and I, we weren't in the meeting. We were kind of outside. It was in the back of the tech shed there at Grattan. But that's just one of those moments you don't forget, because for you, that was a huge moment.
Yeah, it was.
That was your first day.
Yeah, that's what started it. So,
and where are you riding now?
Moto America. Went from novice SCT days to professionally racing, which is cool.
That is pretty cool, and Mike and Sally played a big part of that. Love you forever, Sally. Never forget you, Mike.
Get in close.
Yeah.
Get it real close.
Get in there.
Get that filling in there.
Get in there.
Well, I mean, it really is bittersweet. Like, you know, it's great that everyone remembers him how he was. Like, I didn't get to see any
buddies, and we probably talked more funny than we did business. But there was that time with my kid and Max was going to do their very first track day together, and I remember being in the back of the tech shed in the back room back there where Cozy used to sleep, and he called Morgan, he called Max, called me, and called Van in there, and Michael changed into a leader, into a director of care. And that was when he stuck his finger out at these two kids and said, hey, this is not a joke. We're not at a playground. This is serious. You guys are the two first little kids in this racetrack. Make me proud. Make your parents proud. And know this is not a joke. And I'm not messing around. Go ride those motorcycles like you want to. Be safe, be smart, and know that this isn't a playground. And man, me and Van walked out before that speech was done and go, wow, that was epic. What a leader to take time out of his day to take care of our kids, our future, STT's future, and be a leader, be a dad, be a friend, and do the right thing. That's another big story that I forgot to tell, which I just told it.
That's Mike. Mike
Yeah.
was cool. He was zero drama.
We'll come find him.
Yeah, no, he was completely reasonable.
I wish I had $1 for every time he said, Harris, get that shit done. Harris, get that shit done.
No. Yeah.
So it's always sad when someone goes, but more sad when someone you knew and they look how many people are here because of him. When I eventually go, I hope people remember me like people are remembering him.
All of a sudden, people are like, hey man, what are we gonna do about track days? I'm like, I can do it. I come down the track days. It won't be through the shop, but we'll still call it, Sylvania track days. And so we did that for a year, and I don't remember how many days we did, Joseph. I think maybe we did 5 or 6 days that first year. All Mondays.
And not a money making venture per se.
Not really. It was worth our time. And it was fun, and the big thing is people still got the product. A lot of people were like, hey, who's going to do the track day thing? So I decided to change the name because Sylvania Track Time didn't mean anything to people, and I'm a big fan of calling your company what it is: Sport Bike Track Time. That's what we did, right? And then I started to think about we could do a better product, and Mike Massara, who was the leader of the Buell Rider Adventure Group, acronym BRAG, reached out to me. And I don't remember who the intermediary was, if it was at a track event or that, but he said, hey, I'd really like to talk to you. We've got a good group of people here and that. And Mike and I hit it off. Mike was a really neat person. His experience at Ford and that, shown through. And so we started working on an instructional program to really make the novice program work. And we wanted instruction on track and classroom. So between the two of us, we wrote a manual, and it's still in use today. And we bounced it back and forth, 40 times.
Man.
We're working on various things. Yeah.
I knew Mike went way back, but I didn't realize it was that much.
The original group, if you will, was, and I'm going to, somebody's going to be mad at me because I'm going to forget their name, but, track coaches were Mike Massara, Steve Heilman, Todd Thomas, Justin Shimlansky. Who else was in that original group?
I talked to Jeff Bowen.
I was just going to say Bowen was in that group. Todd Thomas.
Yeah,
Todd Thomas, we go back to street racing days, at midnight on Fridays and Saturdays in Detroit.
I've actually spoken to Todd. I have a recording of Todd that's going into this.
That's where we met, and I mean, he's on a Gixxer 1000 and I'm on a Ducati 900, nobody even knew what a Ducati was. If you weren't on a Suzuki or a Kawasaki and those street racing groups, you just didn't.
Yeah, for sure. But Mike worked with you to like really sort of build the program that we know today anyway.
Yeah, and to that novice program is an important part of the brand.
Oh, absolutely. It's what separates STT from everything else. At least, well, not as much now as it used to, because obviously people have copied it, but
yep.
But
one of the things that I didn't have a problem with is leaning on that program really hard as a reference material. There were a couple people that copied it verbatim, and obviously that was unacceptable. We took, the necessary actions to stop it. But people who approached us and said, hey, you've got a good program. Are there some things that we could use out of it? Because basically people getting on a racetrack are going on that racetrack to have fun in a safe, organized manner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my riders meeting, I had a couple people videotape it and say, is it okay if we use this riders meeting? I'm like, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. That what's good for the riders is good for the sport. So
yeah, it's a tough thing to copyright because it really is kind of, I don't know if you'd say pure common sense, but getting people to learn the proper techniques and just sort of the safety of it and everything it just makes it a much more enjoyable experience. And because, you can actually learn to go fast, and getting hurt and crashing your bike sucks.
A good friend, Nick Einsuch, this is his big thing. He goes, wouldn't it be awesome to go faster with less risk? That's exactly. And then have all those skills that you learned on the racetrack transfer out on the street. So the day that you're going around a corner, if you still ride on the street and there's a Winnebago coming at you halfway over the center line, you don't target fixate into the grill. You just, I can lean this bike over a little further. I can tighten my line.
Absolutely.
Brake, and you know what? I just missed a Winnebago.
People realize today that that program wasn't something that just existed forever. Like, it was just a bunch of people renting time on the track. So,
but that's the nuts and bolts of the novice program were, a bunch of meetings at Shields Pizza, up off the Telegraph. That was where we would meet in person and work on some stuff, and then try it out and then tweak it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a work in progress for probably a full season.
And so at one point, I guess you guys decided to grow it because obviously it is what it is now.
Yep. And Mike, Mike was always, the king of Grat. And I mean, that he loved that place and not quite as much Gingerman. And then, we used to do a lot of stuff at Mid-Ohio. Mike basically, for all intents and purposes, took over the Great Lakes division and ran all the events at Grattan and at Gingerman. And when we were at Mid-Ohio, did all the Mid-Ohio stuff.
Okay.
He was the event director and did a wonderful job. We've all got our Massara stories. There was the third drawer down in the toolbox.
Yeah, that one. We've heard that one a lot.
Was a rite of passage.
Yeah.
If you were potentially track coach material, we wanted to see basically how you could function in a no quarter asked, no quarter given environment. So it would be, hey, can you hand me a screwdriver? It's in the third drawer down. And there would be like one of three responses. The person would open it, see what was in there, close it, and act like they never even went in there. They would open it, look at it, and scream, and then close the door. Or they'd reach in, grab it, and pull it out, and bring it over to Mike. And obviously that last person is the one we were looking for. It was so funny. And I'm not going to say exactly what was in that door, but let's just say that it was a large sex toy.
I've seen the picture of it taped to the back of Dildo Dan's bike. I'm familiar.
Oh my God. That was so classic.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. You know what? I mean, I've never seen people laugh that hard and faces hurt that much after that went down. God, that was so much fun.
Yeah,
and that's the stuff, I don't miss anything about not owning sport bike track time as far as the motorcycles on the racetrack and stuff. You know, it was a good run, had a lot of fun, but I do miss that. You know, those are just irreplaceable and unduplicatable opportunities of camaraderie, you know? I mean, just being